This is going to be really easy for me to say and easy to understand, but you are going to have to really try to change your mindset around this. So here we go. Hey guys, I'm Michelle. Welcome back to my channel. If writing workshops and traditional publishing talk are your thing, please consider subscribing. So last week I sent out a newsletter and I asked, what's your biggest writing struggle right now? And I got so many fantastic responses. Honestly, you guys gave me a few months worth of topics to cover, so thank you very much. Today, I wanted to start with this response from Kimberly. My biggest writing struggle is taking everything in my mind and turning it into words. I can visualize scenes, verbally explain them in parts, and create summaries. I can even write short story versions. There are so many stories and characters bouncing around, it's hard to focus on one at a time. Then, with the videos on YouTube telling you what you shouldn't do, I catch myself making sure I haven't cliched or used a bad trope. I know if I can make it through one full book draft, things will click with writing another. You are correct, Kimberly. That last thing you said, I'm really glad you understand that. The greatest teaching tool for new writers, for authors who want to write books, is to write that first book. It doesn't matter how good or bad it is. That is going to teach you more than any video that you could ever watch. So this question, I feel like this is a two-part problem, and I'm gonna actually give you a three-part answer. First, we're going to talk about that struggle to take that beautiful story you see in your head and make it words. And then we'll talk about that writing advice catch-22. And I do actually have a kind of quick fix solution for you there. Then to wrap up, I've got a few writing workshop activities for you to try that'll help you kind of break your mind out of this mentality and finish that book. So Kimberly, the way you described this gave me a legit flashback on working on my very first novel. And it's one that I never actually finished a first draft of. And I mean like a legit flashback. I remembered exactly where I was sitting, and I remember having my laptop open in my lap. I had done spreadsheets with like plot stuff and arcs, and I had planned this whole trilogy out, and I was just trying to write a scene in the first book where two characters were having a conversation and walking from point A to point B, and I could visualize the scene. I saw the way I wanted to describe it. I heard the dialogue. And what's more, I paid attention as a reader to books I loved. I recognized what made a turn of phrase particularly beautiful, or what made a description really wonderful. And I was just so positive I could do that. I thought that by having the whole thing mapped out, that the hard part was over and writing the book would be easy. So I just sat there visualizing the scene, and I was so ready to go, and I put my hands to the keyboard and it just would not come out right. I'd force out a few sentences and then be horrified at how blah they were, and delete, and then I'd start over again. My frustration with my own prose, and again, this was my first attempt at writing a novel. I was so unforgiving with myself. That was why I never finished that book. I started a new novel months later, and I plotted the heck out of it, and that time I actually did finish the draft. And I think you probably know what I'm gonna say next, but the way I finished that draft was I just accepted that the first draft was going to suck. It was really hard to get through, and honestly, it was not the most fun writing experience. It took a lot of effort for me not to go back every couple paragraphs and pick at what I had written and try to make it a little bit better. But if I could go back in time and tell past Michelle working on that first novel that never got finished, if I could give her any advice, this would be it. Don't just jump from your outline straight into your first draft. Think of it in layers. What do I mean by layers? So take the first scene from your outline. If you're an outliner, if you're a pantser, then skip the outline part and just start right here. Free write a little synopsis of that scene. And by free write, I mean stream of consciousness, ramble out how the scene is playing out in your head. If you really want to be hardcore about it, turn your font to white or do something so that you can't actually see the words and you just completely don't even have that urge to go back and correct yourself. And remind yourself, no one is ever going to read this except you. This is not supposed to be good. This is just getting it all out of your head. Your prose doesn't matter, your grammar doesn't matter, just loosen up and let whatever metaphors, dialogue, imagery, whatever just flow out. Okay, now take that free write and go on to the next layer, which is going to be a more detailed scene that uses all of the stuff that you love from your free write, cuts all the stuff that you thought was cheesy after the fact, and tidies it up just for grammar. Now you've got like an admittedly robotic scene, but all of the key elements are there. So now the third layer, you're gonna go through and rewrite it again, and this time you're going to write it for voice and style and tone. All of the mechanics of your scene are already in place, so your brain is free to focus on the more artistic stuff. If you do this with every single scene, you are going to end up with a pretty decently written first draft. And yes, I am essentially saying to write every chapter of your book 3 times. The free write, the grammatically correct summary, and the voicey, stylistically on point first draft. I know it sounds like a lot more work to do it this way, but the truth is, every time you write one of those layers, you're only focusing on one thing, and you're just going to be so much faster than trying to just jump in and write that first draft scene and get everything just right on the first try. Plus, doing it this way, peeling back the layers is so much less frustrating. Don't try to force magic into your scene on the first go. Peel the scene back layer by layer until you uncover the magic. Yes, there is a little irony here and maybe even a little bit of hypocrisy since I am giving out writing advice and talking about the perils of listening to too much writing advice. I called it a catch-22 because it's a great idea to seek out tips and advice if you're writing a book for the first time. I did it and I found it extremely helpful, but you can go too far. You can use this to procrastinate actually writing, or you can become paralyzed because there's so much information out there about what not to do that you're afraid to type so much as a single word. So if you're in this mindset, if you're drafting and you feel that this is affecting you, the first thing I would say to do is to avoid those videos or articles, posts, whatever, where people are sharing their opinions on things they hate about certain types of fiction. You know the videos I'm talking about. Those videos are super fun to watch if you are not drafting. Because when you hear someone say, ugh, The Chosen One is the #1 worst fantasy trope, and you're writing a chosen one fantasy, that is gonna pop a big old hole in your balloon. And it shouldn't, because that is subjective. Clearly, there are tons of readers out there who love a good chosen one fantasy. And more importantly, you love it. That's what you're writing. It's your story, and that's what matters. Don't let one video that someone made just for fun and for entertainment knock you out of your writing zone. Next, when we're talking about advice specifically, really consider the source. There are a lot of so-called writers and authors out there on the internet who are doling out all kinds of writing advice and telling you they can help you write the perfect book, and they haven't written one themselves, or they have, and if you take a quick skim of the pages, they don't seem to take their own advice. And all that means is they just did some Googling and they're regurgitating what they've heard. Second of all, and we already talked about this a little bit, but remember that so much of this advice is subjective. Even the stuff that seems objective, even the stuff that it seems like everybody has given this advice. Don't have a character look into a mirror to describe herself, or don't start off your book with a character waking up from a dream. What do you want to bet that there are award-winning or best-selling novels out there that use those exact cliches? They are out there. They're out there either because the author did it so well that it wasn't really cliche anymore, or the rest of the story was so compelling, or the plot was so exciting, or the characters were so engaging that a cliche or two here or there didn't matter to the acquiring editor or to the readers. Okay, and now we are at my little quick fix solution. This is gonna be really easy for me to say and easy to understand, but you are going to have to really try to change your mindset around this. So here we go. Stop thinking of it as writing advice, because it is actually revising advice. Cliches, tropes, character development, world building, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the advice is about. Most of the advice you hear, the good advice, subjective or objective, is something that you can and should take and apply once you have actually finished your draft. It's good that you are learning about the craft of writing. And the more books you write, the more you get under your belt, the more you're going to learn and apply all of that advice earlier on in the first draft stage. But the first time you ever write a book, please know that not only is it okay to write a really bad first draft, it's actually good. It is going to make you a better writer because you are going to have to fix it. You're going to have to apply your knowledge and take that blah first draft and make it shine. And any teacher worth her salt is gonna tell you that applied knowledge and applying your skills and not just reading about them, reading those craft books, but actually putting that stuff into use, that's gonna be how you learn, and that's gonna be how you become a great writer. So please don't cheat yourself of that experience by trying to force out perfection on the first draft. It's not possible. So just let yourself have fun with it and trust that your book is going to get better and better with every layer you peel away. Okay, here are 2 writing workshop activities for you to try when you're staring at a half-written scene and hating every single word you wrote. 1, open a new document and finish writing that scene, but bad. Like comically, deliberately bad. Fill it with every cliche, every cheesy, cringy line of dialogue or description that you can possibly think of. Make yourself laugh, get silly, and get it all out. When you're done, you're gonna have a really awful scene, but it's still a scene. And I bet that by deliberately doing all of that stuff you keep telling yourself you can't do, and by giving yourself permission to relax and have fun with writing, you're going to see how much you actually can do that's really great. Second activity, pull one of your favorite novels off the bookshelf. Find a scene you love that you know really well and write it. I mean, like physically type it or handwrite it word for word, copy it out of the book, half the scene. Then close the book and you finish writing the scene. You might try to stick to what you know happens in the scene and mimic the author's voice and style as close to word for word as you can recall. Or you might find yourself going into a completely different direction, make it a little fan fiction, take it in the direction you kind of wish the scene had gone, or even change the style a little bit. But because this scene already exists in your mind, and because so many of the layers are already peeled back, I think you're going to surprise yourself with the kind of prose that you're actually capable of writing. That's it for this workshop. If you have any writing workshop topic requests that you'd like me to cover, please hit me up in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, I would appreciate it if you hit that like button. That is it for this week. I will see you guys Friday with another vlog, and until then, keep writing.